Hi, today I am going to talk to you about boundaries. And what are boundaries? You've probably heard the term a million times and wondered what they are. Well, I'm going to just try to keep it simple. And the way I like to see boundaries is that there are two kinds of boundaries. There are physical boundaries, and then there are emotional boundaries. So, what are physical boundaries? Physical boundaries are related to who you touch and who you allow to touch you, or related to your body, how close you are to someone, how much you allow someone to get close to you physically. Physical boundaries also have to do with regular physical boundaries and then sexual physical boundaries. Who you are sexual with, who you allow to be sexual with you, and all those categories fall into physical boundaries. Then there are emotional boundaries. So emotional boundaries a lot of times are what people get very confused about, and how to deal with them. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into emotional boundaries today. What are emotional boundaries? Emotional boundaries are, well, let's put it this way. When somebody's having some feelings, the healthy thing to do is to feel the feelings, identify the feelings, and then find out why you're feeling the feelings and go to the cause of it and solve the problem. So, for example, a baby that's crying. A baby that's crying, as all parents learn early, that cries mean a lot of different things. And it's the parent's job to figure out, why is my baby crying, what does my baby need, and how can I solve the problem? So baby's crying maybe because they're hungry. So feed the baby. Baby's crying because maybe their diaper's wet. Change the diaper. Baby's crying because they're hot. Baby's crying because they're cold. Solve the problem. Baby's crying because they're very sleepy and need a nap, need help falling asleep. Help the baby fall asleep. Baby's crying because the baby's scared, needs comfort, needs to know that there's somebody around. All these are learned in childhood. Your feelings are indicators of your needs. So listen to your feelings and find out what the need is and meet the need. Now, things get really screwed up in childhood when there's a parent that's not available emotionally. And so their child is crying or having feelings, and the parent doesn't want to deal with the child's feelings, doesn't want to figure out what the underlying need is, and definitely doesn't want to meet the need. Why? Because the parent's needs weren't met themselves. And so you can't be there for somebody if you aren't there for yourself, or you don't find people to be there for you so you can be there for your kids. So a lot of these children that grow up in families where their feelings weren't allowed or the underlying need wasn't identified, these kids grow up and don't know how to get their needs met. And this is where the emotional boundary issue comes in. So it starts in childhood. There's a crying baby, and let's say there's an emotionally unavailable parent that says, shut up, stop crying. Common thing a lot of people hear in dysfunctional families is, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. So what happens when a child has that kind of parenting is that they don't learn what they're feeling, what the underlying need is, but at the same time they also take on their parents' dysfunction. So let's say somebody says that, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. What the kid is learning is they kind of take in their parents' bad mood. The parent has no good boundaries around their emotions. So the parent's emotion of, I don't want to deal with your needs, gets taken on by the child. And so the child gets confused and has their own unidentified feelings and needs, plus they're taking on the shame that they got from the parent around don't feel your feelings are bugging me, there's something wrong with you that you're bugging me with those feelings. So the parent was not containing their own shame around their emotions, dumped it on the kid, so then the kid walks around with the shame on top of the underlying feeling and need that was there that still isn't getting met. So, now that I've laid all that on you, I'm going to talk about how that looks in adult life. So let's say, here's an example of I'm living with a roommate, I'm in a perfectly good mood, I'm having a great day, my roommate walks in, and there's just this tension in the air. There's anger. She slams down her brush on the counter. She slams the cabinet. She's slamming the dishes and washing the dishes. And then, I ask her, what's wrong? How are you doing? And she starts screaming at me like, you do the dishes last night, and now the kitchen's a mess, and just really overreacting. Let's put it that way. And then if I have not very good emotional boundaries, I might get really triggered and start yelling back at her because I'm taking on all her anger and it's triggering my anger. And then I start screaming at her about something she didn't do, and it ends up being in this huge fight. That's one way of reacting it. Or if I have maybe some better boundaries, emotional boundaries, I might see her yelling at me and say, wow, she is overreacting. She's having a bad day. I don't deserve to be talked to this way, but she clearly doesn't have any clarity right now in the situation, and I'm not going to start engaging with her. I'm going to take care of myself around it. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to wait till you cool down, and then I'd like to talk about this. And then I might leave to get away from her anger if it's really bad. Or I might, if she's more reasonable, I might say something like, I hear that you're really angry. I'd like to talk about this, but it doesn't seem like it's a good idea to talk about it here in the heat of the moment, so let's wait. Maybe talk about it later tonight or tomorrow, but clearly there's some tension here that we need to talk about. Or I might be able to talk about it in the moment and say, hey, what's going on? You seem really upset. I have a feeling it's deeper than the dishes, and there's something really going on here, and I care about you. What else is going on? We can talk about the dishes and how I didn't do the dishes, but I just feel like there's something bigger going on with you. Are you, willing to talk to me about it? So in that way, I'm trying to identify my roommate's feelings. I'm trying to go to the underlying need and help her talk about it. All those three ways of dealing with it are a way for me to have boundaries and take care of myself around it without engaging with her bad boundaries around her own emotions. So I think I'm going to leave it at there for emotional boundaries for right now, but we will revisit this topic because it's really complicated and people don't often understand how to deal with boundaries and need it reinforced a lot. All right.